Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm your co-host, Kevin, K-Daddy from Dirty South, the ATL, Hotlanta, Georgia. I'm a post-production master, filmmaker, and horror nerd.
And I'm your co-host, John Thomas, ghost hunter, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley, Gorilla Girl filmmaker, lunar goddess, and cinephile. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Halloween haunted houses, the origins, the evolution, and some of our own crazy experiences with them. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Cinematic, captivating, terrifying, and intense. Trap 2021 will return live May 21st through the 23rd. New categories, new prizes, and still no entry fee. Visit trapfilmfestival.com for more information.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. So today's topic, we're talking about haunted houses. You know, it's the season of Halloween. It's All Hallows Eve coming up around the corner. So how can you not talk about haunted houses?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
You can't bring up Halloween and us not turn into a bunch of giddy little kids. It's just such an exciting time. I mean, let's talk about how TV, I'm going on a slight tangent here, television lineups become just bombarded with horror movies, and I love it. I eat it up. And so I will watch the same like Halloween marathon days in a row. And so this is a very exciting time.
I don't know about you, but Halloween is like my Christmas.
Halloween is Christmas.
I agree. Definitely agree.
You know what? We should all do Halloween gifts instead of gifts.
Halloween gifts. I like
That
this.
would be awesome.
Yes.
We could start
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole new
Like-
thing.
Like not poo-pooing on Christmas, but I think we should celebrate Halloween as the Three Musketeers Christmas.
I'm good.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
good with this. Yes.
I agree.
And I'll need to come down here because I do a Santa, like, you know, the Santa lap picture things,
Mhm.
but they do it with Krampus.
Okay, there is actually a picture of me out there on the interwebs. If you look hard enough, it's actually not that hard to find. There was a Dark Christmas film festival that I had submitted a film to, and their red carpet, they actually had a Krampus, and he was
Cool.
completely dressed head to toe Krampus with like a wooden broomstick. And so all the filmmakers would come and take a picture with him as they walked their little red carpet. Well, I decided to make Krampus get up, and I turned around and spanked him with his broomstick.
Nice.
So there's a picture of me out there whipping Krampus, and leave it up to me to just totally warp that. But it was fun.
You made Krampus your bitch.
I did. Krampus, you is my bitch. Just kidding, Antonio. You're not my bitch. But
Like you were.
so haunted houses. I mean, we've all grown up around some form of a haunted house, right? Like whether it be
Mhm.
through a school for like a fundraiser or on the block. I guess we've all, at least most places, have experienced some kind of like haunted house. And we're talking about like the contrived haunted houses, not ghost haunting houses. We're talking about Halloween, we decorate a basement or decorate the gymnasium or whatever, haunted houses. Or
I used
as they like to call it in Utah, the haunts.
The haunts.
The haunts.
I used to
And-
do home haunts.
What's a home haunt?
A home haunted house that you would build in like your garage or from porch or whatever for the trick-or-treaters. So you go through like a little haunted house type thing to be able to get the candy.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. I've
Yeah.
actually been to a couple of those.
Yeah, I think with like trick-or-treating, That's part of what I've always enjoyed a lot of is going throughout the neighborhoods as a kid and even as an adult. It's pretty neat to see how spectacular people have gotten with their decorations and how some of them do create haunted houses like in their front yard or in their garage, like how creative people have become. I love it. I love to see that creativity, and it's pretty exciting.
It's almost gotten to the point where decorating for Halloween is better than decorating for Christmas. It would seem people, you see the people that do the Christmas decorations outside, house, all kinds of stuff on their house. People are doing that for Halloween now, and it's amazing. I like to see all that stuff as well.
I think part of that too is because we're actually walking around for Halloween. So it's more of an experience. Like your decorations are actually going to be experienced by people. I mean, it's one thing to drive by homes that are lit up for Christmas, and it's still cool. Like I've seen some amazing Christmas, decorations on people's homes and like complete scene setups. But I think with Halloween, you have all of these kids and all of these people walking door to door to door, actually physically experiencing it, going through your, sidewalk, going up your driveway, seeing it in person, close up. And so it's got a different level of interaction and engagement, and it's pretty exciting. So haunted houses, where they come from. I mean, I think as far back as they can track, it was back in like 1802. Yeah, Madame Tussauds created this exhibit of victims from the guillotine, but it was sculptures like depicting the decapitation. So it's not just like a these are creepy figures. Like it's actually depicting morbid, frightening things that are going on in that time. And I know they named it the Chamber of Horrors. So there was no like misconception here. This was something meant to terrify people and scare them, and walk through experience like we see with haunted houses. So it seems like that's probably one of the original like founding fathers, or we'll say founding mother because it's Madame Tussauds, of haunted houses. And I thought it was pretty interesting because she did the death masks. Death masks are masks that they make of a person's face, and it's made of wax, but they make this after the person's dead. So they make an impression of their face after they're dead. And I still don't understand what's the purpose of that. Like, where does that go?
I think it was like a I feel like it's similar to like the postmortem photographs, where it's a way to remember your loved one when they went to rest. Like I think by today's standards it's morbid and creepy, but I think at the time it was more of a beautiful memory and remembrance.
I kind of disagree with that. I think for her, it was probably more almost like a trophy, in fact. Like, I mean, you keep the wax head so you don't have to worry about the skin and everything just like deteriorating and all that. So she's got like a deer head, so to speak, of her victims right there. So
Yeah, but Madame Tussauds isn't the one doing like
No,
she's not
but-
doing the actual guillotine.
True.
Like, so how is it a trophy for her? I think they brought her in to do the death masks. Now, maybe to your point, it was a trophy for someone else, and she was
Right.
just being commissioned to make those.
There we go.
Which is possible. I don't know. I'd have to look into that a bit more. That's pretty interesting. I'd like, because when I think of death masks and take it at face value, you're taking an impression of someone's face. Face. Yeah, got it. Yeah, take it at face value. You're getting a post-mortem impression of someone's face. It almost actually reminds me of the Egyptian times.
Oh, yeah.
When the kings, the pharaohs, they would take impressions of their face for their tombs to put on the outside of their tombs, so kind of who's in there in that respect. But
Right.
I don't know if that translates, if that's something in the similar vein. But that's kind of what that reminded me of when I read about that. And either way, I mean, that's still really disturbing that she's like, hey, let's create, I was doing the death masks, but now let's do the whole shebang. Let me just put all their bodies missing their heads and being decapitated, and let's put it in a gallery so everybody can walk through it and experience it. Like, that's just, oh yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Maybe it was a warning. Be like, hey, don't mess up. This is gonna happen to you.
I mean, they used to put
I
real
mean,
heads
I
on
don't know.
pikes for the same
There you
reason.
go.
Vlad the
Yeah.
Impaler.
Art. I don't know.
But also, those were his conquests. That was his warning to people. But with it being like, she wasn't the king or the queen or anybody in actual governmental power.
Right.
Why would, like, what would be the purpose of a hall of horrors other than chamber of horrors, other than I want to scare you? And I mean, I applaud the lady. Like, you want to terrify people. You're a horror founding mother of your time, and I love it. I dig it. I'm into it. But it just, it's like, I don't know. It's interesting. But so you have your chamber of horrors that kind of maybe started that. And I mean, we can see it trickle through over time. It eventually made its way over to America during the Great Depression. And I think more so back then, that was about stopping kids from doing boneheaded things like pulling Halloween pranks. And first haunted houses were typically held in basements, right? So families would go from like house to house to house, kids would go from basement to basement, like no sense of stranger danger there. Um, no problem with going into strangers' homes. But
Now,
did you guys, as kids, ever do that? Did you ever go just like house to house with your trick or treating buddies and go into some stranger's house, even though your parents told you not to do that?
Not the house, but the garage.
I don't know that makes it any better.
That's actually part of the reason that I started doing my own home haunts, is because I remember as a kid, like there was this one haunted, it wasn't really a haunted house, but it was a trick or treat. And they had taken the screen out of their screen door and put a trash bag. And they had painted a latex glove to look like a zombie hand that they had sticking out. And there was candy in between each of the fingers. And you could get up to 5 pieces of candy if you went up to the hand and pulled the candy out of the fingers. And like, but the thing was, it was a real hand. So
I was gonna say, did it grab you back?
so the person that was on the other side of the door, as soon as you would grab the candy, would grab your wrist. And like it would scare the hell out of you. And I remember screaming so loud at him, booking it, and then coming back and be like, "Where's my candy?" and grabbing the candy.
See, and I was like such a rotten child. I probably would have slapped the hand so it dropped the candy and then picked up the candy that way. Because no way I'm holding someone's hand.
Man. Yep, I can see Ashley doing that, and I can see I can see little Kevin coming back. Where's my damn candy?
I held your hand.
I never went anywhere inside anybody's anything. Garage,
You.
house, no. That's why whatever, shut up. But no houses, no garages, no, nothing. Just to the door.
For a
that's it.
child that grew up on a bunch of like horror, like I was watching things at a young age I shouldn't have been watching, like Freddy Krueger and Hellraiser and like all of the just like things. I was terrified of these fake haunted houses, and I don't even know like psychologically where that comes from, because I could watch all of these movies and go to bed and I'm good. But and I knew the haunted houses were fake, like someone put that on to scare us. But you remember like schools would throw the Halloween parties and they'd set up the gym to have a little bitty like haunted house and like walk through, and I would not go in those. My mom would try and get me to, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna go bob for apples or whatever, all the little games, cakewalk, because I was a fat kid, so I loved it, all the food. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the food stations and y'all go have fun getting scared.
I was the same way, except for the bobbing for apples thing. I don't remember that ever being a real thing for me.
I bought for
so
razor
I don't
blades.
know.
I don't know about you guys.
What?
I'm kidding.
That makes sense.
The age-old razor blades and the apples.
Something I had never heard of that apparently is a very big thing are what's called hell houses. Now that sounds pretty fucking cool, right? It's
Sounds
not. Yeah. Like I hear that, I'm
It's
like, I want to go to a
not.
hell house. What's that?
Sign
It's
me
actually
up.
not cool. Like it's or I guess it depends who you are. Let me take that back. It depends who you are. But it's basically they're houses that are anti-Halloween houses.
Ugh.
So it goes against everything I love. And
That sounds like a literal
hell. Yeah, like literal hell. It is a literal hell house. And actually that is the whole point of these things. They're designed to show sinners like me, you and you, what's going to happen to them when they die. and apparently we're all going to hell. But it shows what sins are going to lend your path to hell and what that torture is going to be like to scare people into being a bit more on the religious straight and narrow pathway. It's like it's gotten so popular among like a lot of the religious groups that they created what's called Hell House in a kit. So these people can reach out to this company and just get it shipped, like this whole Hell House in a box, shipped to them and set it up in wherever they're going to have it. And part of me is curious though. Part of me wants to go and see if I'll be scared by what I see, and not from I'm scared of what's going to happen to my soul, but just like how hard did they commit to this? Like how hard did they go? I might applaud it if they're showing some pretty creepy things that are terrifying that they don't mean maybe to be. I don't know how to say that other than it may scare the hell out of me, but not in the way they intend.
We'll go in and be like, yeah, that was awesome. Let's go again. And they'll be like, wait, what? Just walk out of that. Sign me up. This is going to be awesome.
Oh my gosh. Kevin's driving the bus there. To hell, not to the Hell House.
Yes.
Oh, I got lakefront property. It's fine.
Lakefront lake. Hell has lakes.
Fire your lakes.
Oh yeah. Okay, you're right. I love that haunted houses became so popular that the Disney icon himself created a haunted house, except it was a haunted mansion. Mr. Walt Disney in 1969. It was supposed to be inspired by the Evergreen House and the Winchester Mystery House, which hopefully we'll all be able to go to at some point and explore. I know the Winchester Mystery House is actually not far from me. It's like 45 minutes away. So they are open to the public right now doing like social distance tours. And I think that'd be a really neat place for us to all go and adventure and explore. But those two were actually the sources of inspiration for Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, which, as you guys know, is just huge. Like, people go to Disneyland to see the Haunted Mansion.
It's on my bucket list. I was a kid when the movie came out, and I loved it. I ate that up so much.
I keep forgetting how young he is, and now I feel really old because, wow.
He's the baby of the
my
group.
Goodness.
I know I sound like the baby, but really,
it's K-Daddy over there.
K-Daddy. K-Daddy.
Maybe it's K-Baby. No, I'm just joking. K-Baby, what's happening?
Now, I know after Walt Disney, made that super big, of course, when the mouse does it, it becomes mainstream. So it took off across the U.S. Popularity was insane. And then you had other existing amusement parks start doing their own Halloween haunted houses like Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags. And, we've seen that. We've seen that when the amusement parks near us, it's Halloween time and they're like broadcasting their haunted houses. I mean, we can thank the mouse for making that more mainstream.
Thank you, mouse.
Yes, thank you.
Have you guys been to Knott's Berry Farm?
Nope.
I have not.
Nope. He's like, me neither. I thought he had a story. I was like, all right, let's hear it.
No, I've heard of it. Like, it's a very well-known name, but I've never been. I have been to Six Flags in Denver, the Elitch Gardens. It used to be Six Flags. I would go every Halloween to their Halloween adventures. I stay away from haunted houses, but they have Halloween shows and like theatrical stuff going on, and I like to do that.
Oh, I love going to haunted houses. Like, I eat that up. Early career, I actually did a promotional piece, kind of behind the scenes of one of the bigger ones in Denver. It was amazing. Like, I just being able to see behind the scenes of like how all the animatronics and the makeup and everything.
I don't do haunted houses. You won't get me into a regular haunted house or a hell house, not without copious amounts of Fireball, tequila, or a Moscow.
And yet she wants to go ghost hunting.
No, because that's a different topic. I don't necessarily believe in that, so I'm willing to let you show me how ghost hunting works. And the reason I don't go into the haunted houses is completely different. We'll get into that later.
Piqued my curiosity.
We'll touch on that later.
And come Halloween, I'm bringing all of the tequila, Fireball, vodka, mules, everything to Ashley to be able to get her into the haunted house.
I will bring the rope just in case.
Oh.
We have to drag her there.
This is not that kind of party.
But it can be.
Oh my Lord. Let's talk about modern haunted houses.
Yes, modern.
Fun fact, Utah has one of the biggest
That's what she said.
fascinations with haunted houses, which I did not expect to find. So I lived in Utah for a few years, and they are all about like Halloween there and the haunted houses. Like, it is a big deal. I can't even, like, the culture there for haunted houses, it is a thing. They don't call them haunted houses. They call them haunts. It's a haunt.
A haunt.
Right off the main freeway going through downtown, there is a huge old factory warehouse that they turned into a haunted house, and it stays that way all year round, and it's amazing. It's called the Fear Factory. And to get into the Fear Factory, oh my goodness, like, you have to take this, you go into the industrial section, you drive through, there is a big wooden gate that you have to pass through, and underneath the wooden gate there is like a big metal huge grate, and it's like a manhole on steroids, and you drive over this, you park way in the back, and you go through this haunted house. But the haunted house takes you through the factory, and then you find yourself in the tunnels, and the tunnels, you realize that big metal grating is a tunnel, so you're driving over people in tunnels.
Oh, yes.
Road trip.
Yes, it is amazing. And you make your way through all of these things. Now, yes, I know I said I don't do haunted houses, but being in the film industry, I know a lot of makeup artists that, they do double. They work on the sets, but they also do the makeup for the haunts. And I also worked with someone who was with a lighting, sound, gear rigging company, but he also worked for the Fear Factory. So on my birthday, Ashley had quite a few drinks and decided that I had the balls to go and explore this haunted house at 2 a.m. and I wanted to go. And so we all packed up in the car, and he was there, my friend, and he had keys to the factory because he was like one of the people in charge. There was a small group of us, and we went at 2 a.m. into this Fear Factory, and he turned like the lights on. Granted, there weren't any people in there, but it was still pretty cool, and because it was all set up, and yeah, it was fascinating.
Awesome.
It was neat, but it's a big deal in
That
Utah.
would be awesome. Hell yes.
They also have one called the Haunted Hollow, and that's on 13 acres. So it's like outdoor trails and swamps.
Even
and
better.
Yeah, mazes and barns. They love their haunts, and they put a lot. It's not like rinky-dink haunts. They stay up all year, and they actually work on it all year, creating new props and I actually did a short film where I needed a casket, like a legit casket, and I reached out to them, and they're like, yeah, we'll loan you one. And I went to pick it up, and it was a legit casket. But what was hilarious to me is when I had called and asked them if they had any caskets, they said, does someone had to have been buried in it? Or does that matter? And I'm like, I don't even want to know. Like, just don't tell me. Either way, I just don't tell me.
You're not used. Come on.
That's seriously what they asked me, and I was just like, why would you have a casket that someone was buried? I don't
more
know.
authentic.
But
Come on now.
I didn't want to know because I'm about to have actors get in there, and I was actually going to double for somebody in a scene and get in there, which, by the way, played on all sorts of fears of mine. Did you know there's a difference between a casket and a coffin?
Sadly, no.
Coffins actually have the stereotypical shape that you see like in the vampire movies and the Halloween symbol. That's a coffin. And a casket are like the long rectangular ones that we see nowadays that people get buried in.
Makes sense. I learned something new today.
You're welcome.
Thank you, teacher Ashley.
That's like Utah just has endless haunted houses, haunts, and just the amount of energy and resources that they put into it, and the makeup artistry. Like, one of my friends, she's a makeup artist for the Fear Factory, and the amount of prosthetics and legit makeup that she puts on them to be realistic is just phenomenal.
I've never wanted to go to Utah more.
And Utah actually has a full contact haunted house.
That.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me started on that. I'd be fighting back. I'd be in jail. Sorry.
Kevin, why don't you tell us what a full contact haunted house is?
So most haunted houses are definitely like, you can look, but you can't touch. Where
Story of my life.
both ways.
Both ways. They
I
can't
mean,
touch you
there's
either.
clauses like from experience, if you've gotten scared and you accidentally pop them in the face, like there's liability things of like, okay, it was an accident, natural reflex, but there's strict rules about like you can't just go grab and be hands on and be touchy, basically. But there are growing haunted houses across the country and probably across the world, honestly, that you sign waivers that say that full contact is allowed, to where the actors that are working at the haunts can come up and grab you, touch you, grab your arm, just be way more physical with you. So there's actually a place up in Kentucky called McCaney Manor. There's actually shockingly a wait list to be approved to go to this place, and it's a free haunted house. But you had like the requirements are you have to go through a psyche eval to make sure that you are of sound mind to go to this place, and they give you a time and date and location to somewhere in the town that you need to be, and you show up. And out of the blue, they will come up and kidnap you right off the street and take you to where the haunted house is located, which for the longest time was in this guy's backyard. And they would do some of the most torturous things to these people without stopping. And they would film it and put it up online for everybody to see. And there are some really out there, very hands-on, and in some cases aggressive haunted houses that are a little bit more not PG, if you will.
Going back to what you said about their requirements, though, you also have to be 21 and up, or 18 to 20 with parents' permission. It's a 40-page waiver. You have to pass a background check. They screen you via Facebook or FaceTime or through your phone. You have to have proof of medical insurance as well, and pass a portable drug test the day of the day they go to kidnap you and take you. So there's a lot, and that the waiver takes like 2 hours. I mean, it's 40 freaking pages. So yeah, it's gonna take forever. And then they do the whole thing where you go here and then snatch you up, and then boom, yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know how I feel about this place. There's actually a documentary on it on Netflix, and I watched it, and I just I'd be punching them back. No.
Oh,
no.
Lord. Well, and that's the thing with these full contact houses is even though you're signing a waiver to be touched, grabbed, and jostled around, you don't have permission to touch them back
No,
still.
exactly.
So it's full contact one way. And I know some of I read when they first became popular, when they were becoming introduced into the haunts world, some of them even go so far as like duct taping people. And
Yes.
I know there was one where there was a lawsuit because this guy got punched in the face and like 3 of his teeth were broken. But the thing is, here's the flip side of that. As a person going into a haunt that's called full contact and they're telling you exactly what you're at risk of being done to you, why then are you surprised when something happens to you? You just gave someone permission to fully go ham on you without like actually maiming you. But in his case, he got a little bit more long-term damage than he realized. It just, that's...
Well, I even saw like
there's some personal responsibility there that's being
exactly. Well, I saw like if somebody throws up, they can make you eat that. That's just disgusting. And you have to do it. There's no safe word. There's no nothing. You go through. No, seriously, there's not. If you look it up, they don't have anything to get you out of there. You have to go through it unless you absolutely can't finish it.
Yeah, that's intense.
So, since we're talking about haunted houses, I have a question for you guys. Do you have any fun personal stories about a haunted house other than the one with Fear Factory?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that wasn't like a true haunt experience since it wasn't the full haunt running, but something always happens to me in haunted houses. It never fails. I am like if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to her girl. And it always does. Okay, we have fight or flight reflex, right?
Of course.
And oftentimes people freeze up, or most people freeze up. Some people run. I fight, and I don't mean to. It's an automatic self-protective reaction where if someone startles me successfully in life, I swing, and I swing hard. And I'm pretty like direct with how I swing. It's not like I'm flailing wildly. I don't mean to, it happens. And so I've trained my kids, don't startle me, because I don't want to accidentally hit them.
Right.
Like if they, because they like to prank me and they want to scare me. But now when they scare me, like because they used to not even try, but now when they do try and scare me, they'll duck just in case they are actually successful. I'm like, you little punks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to accidentally punch one of my kids.
Yeah.
It's just because they scared me. So now they're getting a little braver and they actually do try to scare me, but they duck. My first haunted house experience. A guy asked me on a date. And I should say first haunted house experience, not being a little kid in the little cheesy, haunted houses that the schools put together that were cute and fun. I believe I was like 18 or 17, almost 18. I'd already graduated high school. And this guy asked me on a date, and it's Halloween time. And I'm like, okay, yes, but I don't do haunted houses because I know how I react when I'm startled. He's like, yeah, no haunted houses. Got it. So we go to Boondocks in Colorado. We're in Boondocks and we're playing miniature golf and we're playing video, arcade games and bumper cars. And he keeps trying to be all smoochy on me. And I'm just like, dude, I just met you. This is like the first date. And I am still not even sure if I'm vibing. As we're leaving, he's like, oh, one more thing. And I'm like, oh gosh, what? And he hands me tickets and they're to the haunted house in the parking lot that I didn't notice at first. And I'm like, I told you no haunted houses. And he's like, it's fine. I'm with you. I'll protect you. Major eye roll. Yeah. Eye roll big. I'm like, but who's going to protect you? When I kick his butt. But anyways, I'm already going into this haunted house with like probably not the best of attitudes. And by the way, I'm wearing a bright white button-up shirt with like 3/4 sleeves. Keep that in mind. So we go through this haunted house and we're walking through and they introduce the clowns and I'm not scared of clowns. So I'm just like, hey, what's up? And we get to this main room where the floor is grated. It's a metal grating. And I see randomly fingers popping through. So I'm staring down at the ground, trying to walk because I don't want to step on somebody's fingers. I don't see the guy coming out in front of me. So guess what? He startled me. He jumps out. I jump back. I jumped directly back because I was trying not to hit him. Because my fist went up and I jumped back and like caught my arm so I wouldn't hit him. But because I had a hold of my arm like this with my elbow tucked back and my hand wrapped around my wrist so I didn't accidentally like punch this guy in the face and I jumped back to avoid hitting him, I hit the edge of a wall. Perfectly a sharp edge of their constructed wall and against my elbow. I actually like tore open my elbow, like just like that perfect connection. Remember the white shirt?
Not so white anymore.
So my elbow is visibly like you see it in the horror movies, just the blood starts seeping through. And I was like, oh, my elbow, I think I broke it. And the guy who jumped out at me, he's like, he pauses and he's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm bleeding. And I think I might have broken it. I don't know. It hurts. And I'm like, how do I get out of here? What's the fastest way out of here? And I'm trying to cut my elbow. And he's just like, oh, I'll take you out. I'll call the manager. I'll take you out. I'll get you. And I'm like, just point. Where's the exit way? I will go through here fast. And so I am like hauling ass through this haunted house to get out. And I get through the exit. And the stereotypical Jason with the chainsaw, or not Jason, whoever it is with the chainsaw comes out with the mask on, comes out, and he tries to scare me, and I'm so angry that I wave him off. I'm like, no, not right now. And I keep walking because I'm so mad. Because all I can think is this guy made me go to a haunted house when I didn't want to go, and I told him I didn't want to go. I said that's my one rule, and now I'm bleeding all through my nice white shirt because I didn't want to punch the haunted house worker in the face. All because I was trying not to break people's fingers. And so I go to the car, and I'm holding my elbow because I'm still actively bleeding. And my arm of my shirt is just drenched, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna need
God.
stitches. And I'm pissed. I'm not even crying, I'm pissed off. And all because of I said I didn't want to go to a haunted house. And I felt bad because he had paid for the tickets, and I'm like, fine, we'll go through this haunted house. And so we're in the car, and he gets in, and he's like, so what do you want to do now? And I'm like, what? I need to go
I want
home.
to stab you in the face. That's what I want to do.
I need, and all I could, I'm just like, I'd like to go home now. And so he drives me home, and I get home, and we're next to my house, and he leans over and starts trying to make out with me. Mind you, my arm is still bleeding. And as he leans in to try and grab the back of my head and kiss me, I pulled away, and I'm like, have a good night. And I got out of the car because I'm just like, really? This guy's trying to make out with me. And literally, he's prepping for the makeout. He's slipping his arm around my waist and slipping the other arm around, but behind my head. And I'm like, nope, hard swerve. And so he leaves, and I get inside the house, and then my mom's like, what the bleep happened to you? And I'm like, Mom, I think I might need stitches. That was my haunted house experience as a
Oh my
17
God.
teenager, I guess. This is why I don't do haunted houses. But guess what? I've gone to a few, and I have more stories. But let's hear yours. I don't want to take up the whole time.
So mine happened at Boondocks as well. I was on a date with my high school girlfriend of however many years. We were going through the haunt, right? And there was an area that was just pitch black, and they had fishing lines hanging down to make it feel like spider webs and all that stuff. And usually when I'm in a haunt, I don't I'll get scared and I'll jump and I'll be startled, but I don't really get the fight or flight because in my head it's it's a story, it's fake, they're not going to hurt me. I know the reality of the situation, even though I might get scared. Well, this time we were in this dark room. And again, let me preface and say I don't run. I usually do not run. Homie jumps out of the wall, scares the living hell out of me. I scream so loud, I grab her arm, and I'm like, we gotta go. And we start running. Well, pitch black, I can't see where we're going. Wall, me, boom. Ran straight into the wall, and I pulled her with me. Ended up bruising. We both ended up getting a bruise on our foreheads. I pulled so hard. And
oh my God.
The actor who scared us, they're doing that all scary noises and everything. They heard the giant thud against the plywood. And totally broke character started laughing. It was amazing.
So what you're saying is you and I both ran into walls at a haunted house outside
in
of
the parking
Boondocks.
lot.
I am not going anywhere with you guys, even close to this.
Oh my gosh. Universal Studios has the horror nights, right?
Yes.
I've had the wonderful pleasure of being able to go to both in Orlando and Los Angeles. And they are amazing because for people who don't know, they're done on the sound stages using actual set material from the different film sets. And so it's so cool. It's like being in the actual films, and a lot of them are inspired by films. So you have like the Michael Myers house, you have the Walking Dead set, but even like between the sets, they have haunted streets with different themes. So they had like the Purge going off. There's like a Dance Macabre where it's like all of these people on stilts with like really elaborate Victorian dresses, but then the dresses are like half burned and their faces are like half melted off. And it just, oh my God, it is the coolest thing. I would recommend going if at some point they do reopen up to the public, and just phenomenal. But the thing is I don't do haunted houses. So I went with a group that insisted on going on a work trip. We go, and I'm nervous because The Walking Dead is very popular at this time, and I am extremely terrified of zombies. That is a phobia of mine. I can watch the movies and I'm fine, but I have awful nightmares about it. So zombies freak me out. I know that they're going to have one of the streets, because they have a map, is going to be zombies Walking Dead. And then there's an actual haunted house that's Walking Dead, where it's just like, oh gosh, don't know how I'm going to handle this. So my boss and one of my coworkers at the time go to use the bathroom before we get started. And I go to the bar that's on the street, like it's right there. And I order like 3 shots of Fireball, because I'm like, I got to get this to work fast. I have a high-ish tolerance. So I'm like, okay, 1's not going to cut it. 2 might be okay, but 3 is going to seal the deal. So I'm like keeping my eye out for my boss. And like, we're not working. It's the evening. But I'm just like, boom, boom, boom. I take the Fireballs. And then I kind of mosey off to the side, and they come out, and my boss is like, hey, what are you doing? Ooh, guys, we should all get a drink. And I'm like, what? You don't drink? And he's like, well, you always talk about these different drinks that you like. Which one should I get? You mentioned that Fireball once. We should try that. And I'm like, what, now? Now you want to try a drink? He's like, yes, let's do one of those Fireball thingies. And mind you, he has an East Coast accent. I just can't mimic him very well. So he's like, let's get one of those Fireball thingies up there. And so the guy's like, oh, okay. So the bartender the bartender's looking at me because he just saw me pound 3. And he's just like, okay, and hands me one and hands my boss one. And, our coworkers, they're like, no, we're good. And so my boss is like, all right, bottoms up. And so we try, I take it, and then he takes it. He's like, ooh, that's really good. It tastes like cinnamon. Let's do another one. You can handle it. And I'm like, oh, shish. And so he orders another, and I take another, and he takes another. And I'm like, I'm good now. I'm done. That's 5. He doesn't know it's 5, but it's 5. And he's just like, oh, it's good. Okay, let's go. So we go. They wanted to do the Walking Dead one. I did not, because I'm like, that's going to mess with me. But I love vampire films, and they had a From Dusk Till Dawn one. And so it's like, so he and I went to that one, because he's like, yeah, I'll go with you. I don't want you to go alone. And so we go, and I'm thinking, Lord help me that these 5 shots do not kick in while I'm standing here with my boss, because he's definitely going to be able to tell I'm drunk. So we go through the whole From Dusk Till Dawn. But to get from where we were to the From Dusk Till Dawn, we had to go through an alley that, guess what, was zombies. And they could tell he wasn't afraid, so they left him alone, but they could tell I was nervous. So they swarmed me. I got swarmed by 12 zombies. And my boss is like, come on, leave it alone, guys. And I'm just like, I'm going to punch one of them. The Fireball hasn't kicked it yet. I'm going to hit one. And so, they finally left me alone. But it was funny because when he's like, come on, guys, leave it alone, one of the zombies looked at him and shook her head no. Let me tell you when the alcohol kicked in. I know exactly when it kicked in. We were all in line for the Michael Myers house. And I already love Halloween. So I'm happy as is. I'm a giddy little girl. I'm standing outside of this house that's constructed exactly as the movie. I'm walking in and I'm feeling happy. I'm kind of hanging off in the back and walking through, and I'm so happy. I'm cheesing it because this is amazing. I might get Michael Myers. And like Michael Myers is popping up randomly everywhere. And at some point, like I see where they're coming out of, and you can see it's pretty obvious where they're going to jump out of, but I totally missed a spot that there was like a hidden area that looked like an even wall, and there was actually like a little alcove. So as I'm walking by, this really tall Michael Myers steps out right at me and is looking down directly in my face because the dude's tall. I'm looking up at him, and I give him the biggest, drunkest smile and do a little bitty finger wave. And I tell him, I'm your biggest fan. He did a little head shake and then stepped back into his alcove. It was a good thing I was actually inebriated, because the last house we went into, this is not full contact. There were little anamorphic people jumping out and randomly like, lunging at people walking by, and they were doing it pretty rhythmically. They had just jumped out at like the people in front of me. So I'm like, okay. And everybody's walking towards the right side of the hallway, and I'm on the left. And so they literally just jumped out. Like I see him right in front of me. So I continue to walk. He jumped out again immediately. I'm on the left side of the room, not the right side. So he's going full force thinking the next person's on the right side. And he's jumping out with his hand extended. And I get like thrown back by my neck. And he's holding it. And the look on his face, his eyes get wide. And he froze. And I'm like, thank God I have alcohol in my system, because otherwise I might have punched him. He whispers, oh shit, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay, but could you let go now? And he lets go and like runs back into his little hidey hole. The best part though is as I'm leaving the haunted house, the couple in front of me were talking to each other, and they're like, shit, did you see that guy choke that bitch out? This shit's real. And then she turns back and looks and sees I'm right there, and I'm like, yep, I'm that bitch. That's me. I'm okay.
Oh,
So John, tell us about one of your experiences.
I hadn't been to a haunted house when I was younger. I actually, the first time was in my 30s. So about 10 years ago ish. I was dating this person, and actually we were engaged. And her family during Halloween would go to different haunted houses throughout the day or the night or whatever. And so, of course, dating her, she's like, hey, get this day off. We're going. You're going. First time ever going to a haunted house. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I was like, hopefully, again, like you, I don't punch somebody, because if somebody scares me enough, I'm swinging. Well, that didn't happen. I didn't get a chance to. So we go to this one haunted house here. And she's afraid of clowns. So her mom's like, hey, distract her real quick, because we found out there were clowns in this freaking haunted house. And she's like, oh God, already freaking out. We're not even in there yet. She's like, oh God, oh God, oh God. I'm like, it's fine. Shut up. They're clowns. Like, come on. It's just people, whatever. So her mom talks to the people.
You're so kind to your fiance.
Her mom talks to the guys in front, tells them her name, and they spread it all around through the whole haunted house. Gets to the clowns. So we're walking. We're walking. And, she can hear him whisper her name. She's like, are they saying my name? I'm like, no, not at all. That's not what you're hearing stuff. So instead of walking beside her, I am now in front of her being pushed through the haunted house. We go through the different rooms. They're still calling out her name. She's freaking out. She's like, no, they're seriously calling my name. Like, seriously. And well, we get to this big room. It's all colorful and da-da-da and psychedelic and clowns. Not only did I get pushed through, but I got shoved through. She's so freaking out. They're calling her name. They're getting by her. I'm laughing my ass off because it's just hilarious. And we go to the door to get out. Well, the door was a little shorter than I am. So, bam, right on my forehead. I get shoved out the door. And again, like Kevin, I had a bruise on my forehead.
Oh my God.
She's like, we got out. I think we were in that room for like 10 seconds. That was it. Like, there, you were supposed to be in there for longer, but no, it was like 10 seconds. Boom, in and out, done. And some of the clowns followed her. So I got turned around, like seriously, just flipped her. Oh man, it was just, I was like, well, that was
Don't
fun.
you love when people use you
Yes.
as a shield?
So I was a human shield. That was fun.
That's awesome.
Now we know why she's not your fan.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm
No.
kidding. I'm joking. That's a bad joke.
But no, it was fun.
Yeah.
For my first time, that was definitely interesting, to say the least.
Horror nights, that was fun. And there was the Christmas Macabre Street was really fun, and there was like a Krampus
Nice.
with like some evil elves that were trying to scare me, and they weren't successfully scaring me. So they worked together to distract me so Krampus could come up from behind me, and like I felt someone right beside my head because he had leaned in. And then I turn around and it's him, and I jumped, and then the evil elves started laughing. I was like, "You little ass monkeys!" But I clapped. I was like,
Right,
"Well
good job.
done,
Good
well
job."
done, good job. You got me." And they just laughed, and the Krampus winked at me and walked away. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Krampus?"
There goes Ashley and her demons and stuff. Come on now.
I mean, whatever. We all have our things.
Yes. No, it's awesome. I don't think I could actually be a haunted house worker because I would be afraid to be punched all the time. So, and like Kevin
Yeah.
said, I'm sure it happens. At least enough. It's accident. People have their reactions, and
So, guys, where do you think haunted houses are going with the current state of our world?
that's a good question. I'd say before COVID, unfortunately, I think it would be more contact for the actors. People are wanting more of that, it seems. But right now, I don't know.
I mean, Halloween's almost
I
here.
know.
So where does it go? Now, one thing I found when I was researching some of this is that Tokyo has been previewing their first drive-through haunted house, and it's like zombies attack your car and like smear blood all over it, and then you drive through like horror scenes, like Grudge inspired, and the zombies thing would freak me out. I'd probably run over a bunch of people. There's probably a way that they safeguard that doesn't happen. Like, put your car in neutral, give us your keys.
Yes.
But that's cool. Like that's interesting. I mean,
that's the way to go. And of course, they're ahead of everything. They do such a great job with horror and stuff like that anyway, that why haven't we thought of that?
I mean, I think there's something they're onto that's really interesting, putting you in your car, because you're almost still having to force yourself to stay connected to the world because you're operating a vehicle. So it still feels like really normalized and really like, this is my typical daily behavior. And then you have all this horror stuff coming at you, and like things crawling on the walls and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, that has to be really like unsettling. I think it's maybe something that, even if the pandemic, kind of tapered off and we were okay and somehow able to resume some sense of normalcy, it would be an interesting thing to still see explored. Like, I think that's how you scare people the most. Help them feel still grounded, because if they're grounded in reality, they feel this is more real. Because it's like, well, this is reality. I can't displace. Whereas, and I'm not just watching it. It's like, oh crap, I'm in my car. There's zombies. No!
Exactly. Like, you've still got the feel of normalcy, like you said, but then you're trapped still. You can't really run away. So you're like super screwed.
And then I know that some haunted houses have said, some haunts have said that like they will be reducing their capacity and availability by like 50% and doing like sanitizing stations. And I know some are like taking it outdoors, like that 13-acre one. They're already set up for that. But I'm curious to see, because it's like a lot of haunted houses operate as fundraisers for like nonprofits. They do that during Halloween. So I'm interested to see how those adapt. It's an unfortunate time for so many reasons, but oftentimes when things are really bad, we hold on to the things that help us feel normal And so if we go to haunted houses every year, it's like, or trick or treating or participating in like small things, and those routines get taken away, it carries more of an impact because we're holding on to any sense of normalcy that we can feel or find. So it's an interesting time, but I'm loving the creativity and adaptability that people are showing. Things are coming out of this that people, you adapt. And I think it's really neat to see what like Tokyo is doing with their drive-through ones. And you think about it at first, it's like, whoa, that's like, why didn't I think of that? That's so innovative. But it makes sense.
Because it seems like haunted houses tend to be like the theme of the haunted houses tend to gravitate towards whatever pop culture is influenced by. So like when zombies were really big, when Walking Dead was first coming out, there's tons of zombie elements thrown into haunts. So I'm wondering how much pandemic and like virus theme is going to be thrown into the haunts.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will. It'll infiltrate. We've already seen it in the movies. Like the movie, more quarantine virus pandemic themed movies are starting to be explored and all of that. So I think it will definitely impact because it's a fear people have. It'll impact what we see. It'll be integrated in somehow. How much is interesting, but I just, I'm curious to see how things are going to adapt, even when it's safe to go back into a semi-normal, what we consider normal existence and way of being. I'm curious to see what, like you said, how did this impact long term? Are we going to see pandemic themed, quarantine virus themed stuff in our haunted houses over the next decade as like a reminder of that very real fear? All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in to the 3Haunted podcast with your hosts. I'm Ashley.
I'm John Thomas.
And I'm Kevin K. Daddy.
You have any questions or suggestions? Email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to like us on our social media. Hit that follow button.